Much. In her time, Eva Perón was at once the most beloved and vilified person in all of Argentina. In life, she was a president's wife. In death, she enjoys near legendary stature in her native land. Better known as Evita, Perón championed the rights of women and the poor of Argentina back in the late 40s and early 50s. In the process, she made some powerful enemies who despised her for unbridled ambition and a personally extravagant lifestyle. When Perón died of cancer at the age of 33, she became somewhat of a martyr. So much so that today, nearly 45 years after her death, feelings about Evita still run high among the Argentine public. Now, amid great controversy, the musical version of Evita's life story is making its way to the big screen. And much of that controversy stems from the casting of Madonna in the title role. Near the set of Evita in Budapest, Hungary, I recently talked with Madonna about the role and the woman she has longed to play for several years.
I would have been fascinated by her. I would have loved to have gone to have a drink with her, to meet with her. I would love to have at least had a conversation with her. I don't know if we could have been friends. Maybe we would have been incredibly competitive with each other. She was essentially more powerful than her husband. I think that's an amazing accomplishment. I don't say that I necessarily agree with all the things she did or the way she did a lot of things, but I still think that she's an inspiring person in history. I mean, she helped a lot of minorities. She helped poor people.
And she helped herself along the way.
Yes, that's okay. Why not? Are saints only allowed to exist if they're like Mother Teresa and they just wear rags every day and don't, enjoy caviar? I mean,
I suspect if they're to be called saints, the answer would be yes.
Well, I think you can do good things for people and have high ideals and be incredibly moral and still like to buy a lot of shoes. So.
You realize, of course, that dime store shrinks are anxious to
see... A dime a dozen.
Oh, yeah. But they're also anxious to see parallels between her and you.
That's okay. I'm sure there are.
She knows how to appeal to the masses from which she came. She has driving ambition, a compulsive need for power and luxury, a desperate need for approval.
People think that being a star is about being fabulous, being in the spotlight, having your picture taken all the time and having everyone worship and adore you. Being rich, 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 having it all. And you know what? They're absolutely right.
So you don't resent the comparisons? People suggesting equally admired
and loved,
people suggesting seeking fame in the same ways, seeking power in the same ways, etc.
Well, that's a ludicrous notion because we have very different lives and we do very different things with our lives. I mean, the irony of all of this is that the way people have reacted to me portraying Eva Perón and saying, oh, she's vulgar, look at her past, she's not fit to play such a saintly, incredible woman, is exactly what she had to endure and go through when she was in power. There were so many people against her, and they accused her of all the things they're accusing me of now.
Madonna is the subject of controversy.
Singer Madonna has been shaking up Argentina.
Critics have promised to disrupt the making of Evita.
President Carlos Menem even blasted the choice of Madonna to play the lead in Evita.
Why do you think so many Peronists are so strongly opposed, or were so strongly opposed, to your involvement after you got the part?
For no particular reason. Just, I don't think they had a real reason. No, they didn't. They do see her as a saint, pure and without fault. And when we first came, they were, trying to run us out and making all this noise and this and that. And I don't really think they cared that much. I think that in the end we got whatever we wanted quite easily, so I find it hard to believe that they were really, truly opposed to it.
But in the beginning it was pretty bad, wasn't it?
No, I think the media blew it way out of proportion and made it seem like it was really bad.
Has it been much different here in Budapest?
I'll say. Yes.
Why Budapest?
Because of the architecture. It's very similar to Buenos Aires. And because it's, we can block off entire streets for like funeral processions and things like that. We couldn't do that in Buenos Aires, and it's really expensive to shoot down there.
The film, like the play, will be all music, no spoken words.
No, there's spoken.
There are spoken words.
There are bits and pieces of spoken dialogue throughout the film.
Commercially risky?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we are either going to invent a whole new art form and it's going to be just the most amazing thing, or we're all completely mad.
Do you believe in it? Are you convinced it's going to work, or are you
I believe
kind
in
of
it.
guessing at this point?
No, I believe in it. I believe in it. I think it's going to be a real moving piece of work, and very important.
It's monumental to you personally. How big a deal is it to your career?
I think it's a very big deal.
Biggest thing yet?
Yeah.
Make or break in film sense?
No. But it will certainly help if it does well. Yes.
And if it doesn't?
I just don't want to think about that right now. Thank you very much.
Tomorrow morning in part 2 of our conversation, Madonna talks about marriage and motherhood and the future of her changing music career. In the world of pop and rock, Madonna has clearly proven her worth. Commercially, she's the most successful female recording artist of all time. And though the upcoming screen version of Evita represents her most important film undertaking to date, the biggest news in her personal life is that a baby is on the way. I talked with Madonna in Budapest, Hungary, just before her pregnancy was announced, and asked whether she thought marriage was an essential part of motherhood.
I've been married before. It's not what it's cracked up to be.
And yet I read that you...
I think you can live with someone and be in love with someone and raise children and not be married and be perfectly fine.
You have been married before. People forget that, I think, from time to time. I was surprised, in fact, to see that you still referred in a recent interview to Sean as the love of your life.
Right. Well, maybe I should clarify that statement. I mean, I think I've never loved anyone with such a pure idealism as I loved Sean. And that's probably why I married him, you know. It was a very important relationship in my life.
You have, you've been in some good, successful films. Dick Tracy, Truth or Dare, League of Their Own, Desperately Seeking Susan. You have been in some bad and failed movies. Shanghai Surprise, Who's That Girl, Body of Evidence. Do you think in those that failed, your acting contributed to their failure? Assuming the converse is true, that your acting contributed to the success of the other ones that succeeded.
I think Shanghai Surprise and Body of Evidence were bad movies that I was good in, and I think Who's That Girl was a bad movie that I was bad in.
Hey, I'm a thief, I admit that, but I never killed anybody.
All right.
I was fraying, Loudon. I was going with this guy named Johnny, small-time booster.
What would a good review mean at this point to you for your acting?
The whole world.
Oh, come on. I mean, you've already got as big a bank account, as big a name as you want. I mean, what difference would it make?
Well, money doesn't make people happy,
Understood.
as you know. Well, it would make a really big difference, because then I think that I would probably have the opportunity to do a lot more movies and do a lot of things that I'd like to do filmically.
I guess what I'm asking is, do you need a good review?
I don't, personally. I know that I'm a good actress, but I think other people, you know, the masses who are so easily swayed, as you know, they need to read it.
Do you think it is possible for your acting efforts to be judged on their own merits?
Yes. I think it has to do with timing. For instance, Body of Evidence came out right after my sex book, and everybody was already like running to burn me at the stake, so it doesn't really matter what movie I would have done at that point. And I also think it has to do with the project itself. Is the project large enough to contain my baggage?
Have you given up on the idea of being judged fairly? or objectively?
That's a good question. No, I haven't given up. I've given up on thinking that it's going to happen overnight, but I haven't given up on it. I still have hope that people are going to eventually see me for who I am.
Musically, you've had a good year. Is music still central to everything you do? I mean, is it still the number one priority?
No, being happy is the number one priority.
Professionally speaking.
I guess so. I mean, it's my first love. So
First loves don't always last.
this is true, but you never forget them.
Of course not. But if Evita goes well and the reviews are as wonderful as you'd hope for them to be, and acting becomes increasingly attractive, does continuing with a musical career become less attractive?
No, it just means I'm busier. I don't think I'd ever want to stop writing music. Ever.
Like a virgin, hey, touch for the very first time. Open your heart to me, baby. I hold the lock and you hold the key. Did I say something true? Oops, I didn't know we couldn't talk about sex.
You have, as I understand, had more hits than any woman in history. How important is the record to you?
Well, it's nice, but it's not something I think about. Truly, I didn't even know what you just told me.
Oh, give me a break.
I swear to God, I thought like Whitney Houston was ahead of me or something.
She's closing fast, I understand.
Oh, who cares?
Well, that answers my next question. Do you care?
No.
You don't care? Mm-mm. Mariah can pass, Janet can pass, doesn't matter. Whitney can pass, doesn't matter. Who cares?
Well, they can't do what I do. What is that? All that mean, anyways? A list. Everyone's too obsessed with lists. I mean, I don't mind being on top. Don't worry, I'm not like complaining about it or anything.
What happens after Evita's done?
I collapse in a heap.
Will you make a concerted attempt after it's wrapped to lay low so that it's judged on its own merits?
Oh yes, I will. So considerable. Yes.